Hey guys, this is Miss Mendoza. Today we're going to learn about distributive property. So the first thing that we're going to do is first I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see my screen. Okay, so we're going to look at this example. It says simplify 3 parentheses x plus 1. So the order of operations, if we're thinking back of order operation, we learned that the first thing that we have to simplify is the parentheses, right? But we can't add x and y together. And this goes back to what we learned yesterday. We can't combine those because they are not like terms. So I'm going to click on where it says type here and type in like terms. So go ahead and type it in also, please. So when we have something like this, we have to use distributive property, which is what we're going to learn about today. So we're going to start this by using algebra tiles because I think it gives you a really good vision of what I'm talking about. So on the right of your screen, there's a clipboard with algebra tiles. You guys should remember these from elementary school, or you might have used them in middle school. So these right here that are these long pieces, these are going to be our x's. These, the little squares, when in elementary school they used to be 1, theirs are going to still be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The only difference is that this long piece is going to be our x. If we had a square, and I'm going to just add it so you can see, that looked like this, that was the hundredths, that would be x squared. But we're not going to do x squared today. We're just going to use these. If it's negative, your algebra tiles are going to be red. If it's positive, your algebra tiles are going to be yellow. Okay? All right, so let's look at this. We're going to model 3 parentheses x plus 1. So what does that mean? So remember, parentheses means a group. So that means that we have 3 groups of x plus 1. So I'm going to move one of my x's over. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so it fits. I'll make yours smaller so you don't have to mess with it when you do the lesson. All right, so I have 1x, but I need 3 groups of x plus 1. So I need to bring another one of these units. So that's 1x plus 1, but this number on the outside is telling me I need 3. So instead of moving stuff over, I'm just going to duplicate it. So Control D. So I have another x plus 1, Control D. I have another, that's x plus 1, Control D. Move this up a little bit. So I'm going to click it and hit Control D. All right, so now I have 3 groups of x plus 1. Okay, so now I've modeled that. So now it's asking me to distribute. So that means that I'm going to break up my x's and break up my my 1's. Okay, so instead of having 3 groups of x plus 1, I'm going to move this over, and you can actually see it there, right? Now I have 3 x's, and I have 3 1's. So that means that once I distribute that 3, my new answer, and I'm going to insert a text box here, my new answer is, based on this, 3x plus 3. Okay? So all I did was I took this 3 and I distributed. So I separated my x's and I separated my 1. And this is how we do it with algebra tiles. Okay? So let me go back one more time. The first thing, 3 parentheses x plus 1, is telling me that I have 3 groups of x plus 1. So here's one group, here's a second group, here's a third group of x plus 1. Then I'm going to distribute. So that means that I'm going to take my x's and I'm going to separate them, take my 1's and I'm going to separate them, and what do I have left? I have 3x plus 3. Okay? All right, so you're going to try, we're going to try these two. So go ahead and take a moment. You can put this video on pause and you're going to try doing these two using your algebra tiles. Okay? All right, so you should have used your algebra tiles to distribute these two. When you did that, you would have seen that in this one, so whenever I check your work, I'm going to check that you distribute it with the algebra tiles, but your final answer once you distribute it should have been 2x plus 3, and this one should have been 2x minus 6. Actually, 2x plus 6, sorry. Plus 6, and this is 2x minus 6. Because for this one, you should have used the red ones, which are negative, so you should have had two groups of x minus 3. All right, so that's how we do it algebraically. So I think it gives you a really good visual of what in the world we're doing. The distributive property states that you multiply its sum or difference inside parentheses by a number outside the parentheses. So that's exactly what we did. So if we would have gone up here, right, and I would have multiplied 3 times x, that's the same as 3x. And if I go here and I multiply 3 times 1, that's the same as 3. So then I just write it as an expression, okay? So that's what we're going to do with distributive property. This always works whenever you have a parentheses and you have a number on the outside. So there's a couple of things you need to remember before we tackle these. The first thing you need to remember is a number times a variable is written together. So 2 times x is the same as 2x. You also have to remember that when you multiply the numbers, you have to keep the variable. So 2x times 5 is the same as 10x, because you're multiplying the coefficient, which is a number in front of the variable, with the constant, which is a number without a variable. So 2x times 5 is 10x. Another thing you need to remember is that a variable times a variable is written with an exponent. So x times x is the same as x squared. Okay? Another thing you need to remember is that when you multiply the variables, you keep the number. So this should have been 2x. I don't know why I wrote x. It should have been 2x instead of x2. But so 2x times x. So you keep the number, that's 2, because when there's not a number in front of a variable, that means there's a 1, right? And then we multiplied the two variables, and so x times x is the same as x squared. So those are 4 things that you need to remember that you've learned in the past. We're going to do these examples together, the first 3, and then you'll do the next 3 by yourself. All right? So if we're multiplying, let me see if I can draw a little, I probably can't, but let me try it, a scribble. If I see this and I see a parentheses and then with an expression inside and a number on the outside, an alarm bell should go off in your brain that tells you you need to multiply the number on the outside with the numbers inside. So 4 times x, that's the first one you want to do. That's the same as 4x. But we're not done. You have to multiply that 4 with to both numbers inside the parentheses, just like we did our algebra tiles, okay? So then 4 times 3 is the same as 12. And they're both positive, so it just is plus 12, okay? Because the 12 you get is positive. Let's look at another one. I'm going to give you a second. If I'm going too fast, you can pause me, you can rewind me, whatever you need to do in order if you feel like I'm going a little bit too fast. All right, let's go to the next one. 5 times, so again, we have a parentheses, we have an expression inside of it, we have a number on the outside. So this should tell you that we are going to use distributive property. So I have 5 times y, so 5 times y, that's the same as 5y. And then 5 times negative 2 is the same as minus 10. Okay, so we don't do plus negative anymore. That's a 6th grade thing. You should write it as minus 10. All right, and then the last one, this one has a variable. That's why I had that extra rule. A times A. So remember, when we multiply the two variables, you write the exponent of how many variables you multiply together. So here we multiplied A times A, so we multiplied two variables. So that's the same as A squared. And I'm going to draw this little hat thingy because that tells me it's an exponent. Sometimes you can do it in your editing, but we don't have time for that right now, so I'm just going to do it this way. All right, and then the next one is A times negative 6. So that's the same as minus 6a. So all I did was multiply a times a. That's a squared, because we use 2a. So whatever number of variables you multiply, that's what you put there. And then a times negative 6 is the same as negative 6a. So we always put the coefficient in front of the number. Don't do what I did over here. I don't know why I did that. I messed it up. Okay? All right. So you're going to try these 3 on your own. And then you are going to go into your Go Formative and you're going to finish working on that practice. All right. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us. And have a great day.